Phil episode that you were going to be on, I was like, how can my guy go with another bald host on a podcast without calling me first? Of course, I'm talking about my guy, Victor Avila from Texas. We're going to go to him right now on the Be Better podcast. That's right, the Be Better podcast. You can find us on the Prayed Up Network. And we're going live tonight, which is a rare thing, a rare occasion for us here. Let's get our guy into the studio. Man, it's good to see you, brother. It's good to see you, Victor. How are you?
Great to see you, man. Great to be back with you here. I'm glad to see you as well. And I know it's been a minute, but never really lost track because I know we still talk here and there. But the campaign obviously took a lot of my time, as you can imagine. But it's all good. It's all good. That ended in the primary. I didn't make the runoff, but it didn't discourage me. All it did was encourage me to continue to do what I do. It's just going to be a different avenue. That's the way I see it. It's not going to be through Congress. It'll be through another way, another fashion. There's many, many ways to help. And this is what I want to encourage people, that sometimes you do not get what you're asking for in life, or what you're searching for, whether it's a career, whether it's whatever it is that you're doing, but doesn't mean it's over. And let me tell you, is it disappointing? Of course it is, but it only pushes me to do more and to find other ways to be able to be effective. And I really want to be part of the solution, as you know.
I do know that about you. And it's, I just congratulate you, because you're a guy that just keeps getting up and grinding. And I that resonates with me, right? And I've been trying my darndest here. We're almost going on 5 years. And, all the personal journeys that I share and all the battles, but yet I still get up every day and I love doing what I do. But I love it because I get to meet people like you, Victor. And, I've probably known you for about 4 years now. And since I met you, of course, we talked about the Ice Agent Under Fire, the book, your story for folks that maybe don't know who you are. I don't know how you don't know who he is now. Because if you don't know who this guy is right now, after this appearance right here, you're not paying attention. You're living under a rock, because you know what? My guy's a rock star now. Dr. Phil, and that smiley face right there with Victor. So your book goes back to when you were working as an ICE agent. We've talked about it several times. Your partner was killed. You were shot. Those guns that were used by the cartel were part of the Fast and Furious. There's actually a law that came about because of that. Eventually, there was a law that came about because of that. But your life changed that day, didn't it? I mean, not just from no longer really law enforcement, but your life changed to more of a crusader, someone that's decided, you're not taking me out, I'm going to fight.
Yeah, and it's funny because when my life definitely changed. It was turned upside down. But then at that moment, you don't know in what direction it's going to change. I knew it had changed. I knew I wasn't going to be a special agent anymore, and that's very devastating on a personal level, because that's all I've done in law enforcement since I was 22. And so it is devastating. Like, well, what the heck am I going to do now? What else do I know how to do? And I'll tell you what, I never thought in my life that I'd be running for Congress, or that I'd be doing news hits on news programs or beyond with Dr. Phil. That definitely was not part of it. As a matter of fact, writing a book initially was not even part of that. And so, but it's a journey, and it's a journey that you have to kind of, well, at least in my case, I really had to pay attention and really focus, because I really, really struggled with not knowing what to do. I was always a little bit of a control freak, Kevin. I was that guy that I had the career path. I'm going to do this for 3 years, then I'm going to get promoted, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to be head of this office, and then I'm going to and I'm going to move my family. And I had this picture, and believe it or not, my wife and I had basically done that for most of our lives, until, of course, the shooting happened and all of that was disrupted. So 2 things I learned. One, the control is not mine. It belongs to God and his journey and where he wants me. That was easy to find out once I kind of came to that conclusion. And but second of all, that I didn't have to worry so much about what I used to worry about, and what I had control of and what I didn't have control of. And that naturally, slowly, believe me, it wasn't automatic, naturally and slowly put me in these positions where I started exploring, for example, my friend of mine, another agent, that said, hey, can you do a hit on the news? I said, what the heck is a hit? And he says, you go get the earpiece on, you talk to a lens of a camera, and you talk for 4 minutes, a 4 minute hit about whatever's going on. And I said, okay. And that's how I started years ago. I think now maybe about 5-6 years ago that I started doing that. And then that progressed, right? And then of course, writing the book and my speaking engagements after that. And I still continue to do my speaking engagements. I just got back from Peoria, Illinois, speaking to the Narcotics Officers Association over there in Illinois. And so I learn a lot. I travel the country. I hear firsthand what's happening at the border, what's happening in local jurisdictions throughout the country. And what I want to do is, because I have a little bit of a platform and I do media, is I want to share this. And I want to share what I hear, the information that I get, the intel, a lot of it obviously surrounding the border issues and the bigger picture. And so then that led me into politics. I don't know how, but it did. I wanted to get involved. And so I started getting involved. And so I started going to these groups and talking and listening and finding that out. And so here we are. Yes, because it became an advocacy. It became somewhat of a journey, a new one that I had never done before, and I'm comfortable with. I really want. I like this role of being able to share the truth. I'm a truth seeker and teller about a lot of things that have to do with public safety, national security, the drugs, everything in my world that I know about that I think affects every American from either side of the aisle. As a matter of fact, I've been saying this lately a lot, that I really want to get away from the partisan issue, because it's become very partisan. And yes, like you, like me, I'm a conservative American, and I'm very partisan in many things. But the things that are affecting us now, as you and I do this podcast, has nothing to do with what your ideology is. It's how the political system is affecting us. But for example, fentanyl and drugs and human trafficking and the open border, that system and those people and the cartels and all that, they don't care what side of the aisle you vote on. They're affecting us. They're killing us. It's affecting our community, violence, crime, all these other things that I'm trying to say. People, listen, this is something that should unite us to come together to bring real solutions. And like I said, I want to be part of the solutions. And so I'm involved with Border 911 with Tom Homan. I'm part of the group. I launched a PAC. I said, well, what do I do with this PAC? Let's actually do it where we actually will help the candidate. We'll brief the candidate. We'll actually give them actual resources about the border. If they want to come to the border, I'll take them and show them the reality. So wherever jurisdiction, wherever district they're running throughout the country, they could say, you know what, I got a very good briefing from Victor Avila and run their campaign. And yes, I will support America First candidates. I will support candidates that want to secure our border. And so we launched Border Patriot PAC just last week. And a lot of good things, man. I'll share something else right now before we're done. I'll share something new that I'm working on as well. But like I said, it's staying busy and being active and not giving up.
You are actually, I think a very highly motivated guy, and your story, your life story, even from the character that's built by your parents, your story of your parents coming here, first generation, American for yourself, your parents actually getting married, and I say this all the time. When I tell people the story, I'm like, when Victor told me that the first time, I remember distinctly, like going, well, that's a story that America needs to hear. That kind of pride about a place where people fight so hard to come here, and quite frankly. This better than anybody. The people in the border, they're coming here. There's a percentage of those people that are just coming here to live in a place, and they've been lied to. They've been misled. And I wish I lived in a place that welcomed everybody the right way. But unfortunately, the border has been used as a political football, as we both know. Your ability to communicate about the border, obviously having your Mexican, heritage and coming from there. But, I think people also see now there's not a lot of Mexicans coming through the border. It's everybody. So it's not like, we can't no longer point at Mexico, although they might be walking through there, and we know the cartel is involved with that. But you're unique in a sense of, being a family man, being an ICE agent. most people in the ICE agent, most people who were officers who've gotten shot in the head, they probably wouldn't be doing what you're doing right now. They would actually just probably be somewhere else. Why do you do it? Like, what is the thing that drives you? Because you don't need to do. I'm speaking for you, but why?
No, I know, and well, first of all, I'm not the guy that I could stay on my couch and scratch my belly. I'm the type of guy that I need to do something, and it is personal to me. I love this country. I love my heritage. I want people to understand that sometimes I get the haters like, oh, Victor, you disgrace to the Mexican, whatever. First of all, I'm an American. I was born and raised in Texas. Second of all, I embrace my heritage. I love my heritage, my food, my music, my culture, and you can do both. I can love this country and put America first, and hold Mexico accountable, the government over there, for all the destroying that they're doing to our country. And I want people to understand that there's a very clear path there. Even when I worked in Mexico as a diplomat, and even in Europe, sometimes I would get questioned by the Mexican government, like, because I spoke Spanish a lot with them, and I interacted with them, and because of the culture, we got along very well. And they would kind of sometimes would say, well, Victor, are you American? And I'm like, yeah, like, let's not make a mistake. My allegiance is to the other team, meaning the United States of America. I play for that team, and let's not have any questions about that. But what it did do is it provided me the avenue to, as bilingual and all that, to be able to deal with all these other governments, especially the corrupt ones in Mexico and others that I think that I was trying to advance the mission of the United States. But family is important. The big difference here, Kevin, is that what we're seeing now, and I agree with you, people are even the ones that are coming here that are economic migrants that just want to come and work are being lied to. Most of them are probably in a worse position now that they were in their home country. Now they don't have a house, they don't have anything to eat. They're trying to survive off of our government, which in their home country, even if they were poor, they were okay. They were doing better than they weren't homeless, at least, And so, but the word is assimilation. You use my parents as an example that my parents came to the country and wanted to assimilate. They did assimilate. They became Americans. They got, like you said, they got married in Mexico, California, and Texas. That's assimilation. That's wanting to become part of the community, be part of the church. Don't be a public charge to the government. Don't take away, but give, work hard, work. My parents worked their butt off, man, for a long time for my sisters and I to have this opportunity. And I embrace that. I love that. It gives me chills when I talk about that. I want that for other people. This is what I love to tell is, like, I'm not an anti-immigrant person. I'm anti-illegal immigration, which is a huge difference, because I'm a law and order guy, and I want people to follow our laws, to follow our Constitution, and respect our sovereignty, something that I think has been completely lost in the last 3.5 years.
100%. It's interesting because I think you and I have evolved in even our senses, our conversations. And if we went back to watch some of the footage from 3 or 4 years ago when we first met, there was a lot of anger in this country, and I think we still have that kind of feeling, but I think it's kind of grown into to a position where we just got it. We can't approach it angry anymore. We can't try to have an argument anymore. We can't try to debate our own political system has created this. So how do we fix it is the real issue. And so you go from growing up in that space, being a proud, you just talk about your parents and how that makes you feel. That's an amazing story. I just love, and it makes me smile. But then you yourself take that and you take that into your own life with your own family, and you're teaching those to your kids. But you're an example to America that this is the greatest country on earth. You were shot and killed, your partner killed, you were left to die by the cartel, by guns that came under the Fast and Furious under Barack Obama's administration. Were you ever mad at America? Were you like, you know what, this is, I can move anywhere. Were you ever feeling like that after?
Absolutely, man. I had a very, very dark years after the shooting, a lot of confusion. I was very confused by the loyalty that I had for the government, the loyalty that I had for my job. for my service, that wasn't reciprocated back to me and my family. I arrested a lot of people. I put a lot of bad people behind bars, human traffickers, drug traffickers. I arrested a lot of women and children. I did good, and I was proud of that. But I wasn't hearing that, or at least forget hearing about it. The actions of the administration back then were not telling me that. They didn't care if I arrested no one or 1,000 people. To them, it made no difference. And I really had a big challenge, understanding that. And yes, there were some very, very dark years after that, trying to figure out, like we said before, well, what do I do now, right? What is my role when they strip you of that? And so anger is one of the number one, first reactions to have. And let me tell you, Kevin, I remember this very clearly. I specifically would tell my counselor and all this, and I even talked to my wife, and I told her, I do not want to be this old, bitter, angry man that's going to be eaten from inside out and hate the world. No. I was very conscious of that. I fought it. I successfully fought it, but it was very, believe me, it was very conscious.
Did you battle alcohol? Did you battle alcohol or anything like that?
I'm very fortunate. I'm very fortunate that I didn't battle alcohol or drugs, but I'll tell you, I battled food.
Okay. Did you blow up?
Food was my enemy, man. I gained a lot of weight.
Yeah. That's not funny. You said it, but it's not funny because there's a depression, that does cause it. So
I went into major depression, anxiety, PTSD, you name it. Absolutely. And I talk a lot about it, a lot more now as I do my public speaking events, because believe it or not, I get more comments about that part about speaking than the actual event of the shooting, because there's a lot of people that go through traumas, and it doesn't have to be in a line of duty shooting. It could be whatever kind of trauma, you have an accident, a surgery, whatever kind of trauma that you had in your life. And so how do you overcome that trauma or learn to live with it? This is not about forgetting. We never forget. It's not about forgetting. It's about acknowledging and moving forward and using that to your advantage. And in my case, I like to help other people just by sharing my story and letting them know that with God, family, counseling, all this other stuff that happened, that I'm right here. I tell them I'm the example. I'm standing right here in front of you. I'm here telling you that, yes, it can be done. As horrible as that event was, that you're absolutely right. It could have been drugs. It could have been alcohol. It could have been worse. And I'm glad it wasn't. But I understand that for some people that's the way it is. And so there's always a solution. And why I say this all the time is the reason there's a solution is because we're alive. Plain and simple. If you're alive and you woke up this morning, that means that you're here for a reason. And whatever imminent problem or horrible issue you have, financial, divorce, employment, whatever it is, I call it, the agent under fire took a new meaning for me. If you're under fire in these parts of your life, with your spouse, with your employer, if you feel like you're under fire, well, guess what? You're alive. And so you have the ability to overcome that. You have the ability to make it right. And that's what I did. And it wasn't one day. I talk about it kind of nonchalantly, like it's easy. Believe me, it wasn't easy. It took years. It took years, and it took a lot of discipline. It took a lot of pitfalls, a lot of falling back and regrouping. And then you start getting better and you start getting better. I started talking about it. I started doing all this stuff. I started getting involved and many other things that came together. But I want people to know that absolutely, if you're here, that means that there's a solution.
Yes, sir. And it's mental health. I think there's been an awakening in this country. I think after the COVID sort of situation, alcohol that I've been sober now for 16 or 17 months. Off alcohol, and I've been dealing with my mental health issues. So I appreciate it. I'm not trying to be your equal, but you said something that makes sense, and I want the viewers to understand it doesn't matter what that is, because we all have different things in our lives that could put us into a dark place. And yours was definitely one that nobody wants to deal with, but you bounced back, which should give hope to everybody else. You are the Oscar De La Hoya of the law enforcement world, not just because you look that way. I know you've been told that before.
Yeah.
But it's and laughter too. I got to say this, part of that dark place is trying to find that laughter again and that smile on your face. And so, how's your family doing in a sense from where you were to where you are now? I know you got college age kids, and you got
Yes.
but so how is that going on in your life? Because they went through this with you, right? They did this journey with you, Victor.
They went through their own trauma, absolutely, and sometimes you become kind of caught up with what your trauma, and it's all about me and me. But then you kind of have to sit back and say, listen, my wife went through her trauma, my kids went through, my family, my coworkers. A lot of people went through their role in this situation. So it wasn't just about me, because there is a ripple effect of what and what you put out. That's why in drug addiction, alcoholism, you don't just affect yourself, you're affecting everybody around you. And believe me, I was very cognizant of that. I wasn't a good person to be around after the shooting. I give all the credit to my wife for sticking with me, my kids and their resiliency. And of course, I give the credit to God to be able to give us that vision, the words to say, the actions to take. And I'm blessed is the way I could tell you. I've been blessed. My kids they really took to what happened, and how can I tell you, they were able to accept it. I was very open with them about what their dad does. They were very young when this happened. They knew I was in law enforcement. They knew there was guns in the house. They knew that I went after bad guys. So that really helped that at least they were included in that. It wasn't like we have no idea what dad does. No, they knew, and that really helped in the healing process. But their college day, my daughter is getting her MBA. My son is a first year of business school. We couldn't be prouder and happier of them, that we have been blessed with them, that they have been good students, that they have been, maybe a little spoiled, but let me tell you, they pay us back with their hard work at school and their work ethic, because you know how hard it is to pass that along nowadays. Kids don't want to work. We're, as parents, we're fighting with the system, the school systems, and the woke ideas and all the craziness that happens. They try to undo everything that we do in our home, and so that's a challenge. My son more conservative, my daughter a little bit less, but still on the conservative side. But yeah, they bring home a lot of crazy ideas. And what the hell did you get that from? Well, from the professor at school. They spend more time at school than they do at home. And so
we're seeing that now in Columbia University. We're seeing the things that are going on across our country. And I'm a nonpartisan person in these days. The only party that I represent is God's party. That's kind of where I'm approaching. And I think you brought that up in the beginning, Victor. It's like we've all evolved in this game. Yeah, I have a conservative view. I have a very patriotic view of my country. I love this country because your story, not my story. Your story makes me feel like this is the greatest country on earth. But we're losing that. What do you think's going on in that system of education? Because you're a college student. You're just kind of touching on that. Do you think this is a place where we need to focus? Maybe I know we're focused on the battle at the southern border. We're focused at the battle on the attack on different candidates that are clearly we can get into that later on with even what's happening to Trump or even Biden for that matter. I think Biden's a victim, by the way. I'll say it officially. I think Biden is a victim of being manipulated and used by every level. And I don't talk politics anymore. I actually feel for the guy. Sad. It's sad to watch our country have that. But what's going on in colleges where these young people think that, first of all, some of them are trying to fight for the rights of Palestinians. And I have many Palestinians in my life. I don't want anyone at war. But do they realize that they would be killing homosexuals and gay people with LGBT? That doesn't exist in those communities. But these are the same kids out there doing that. I just don't understand why we're not trying to educate our young people.
Well, that it's the key is that there's a lack of education, and it's the lack of a thorough education. First of all, I want to really, we have a learning problem in this country. That's why the Chinese and other countries are eating our lunch, because we can't read, we can't do math, we suck. We definitely do. And what does that mean? That means that when you are not good at the basics of education, your sciences, your math, your reading comprehension, then that means that you can't be out and get a productive job to be in the competitive market against these other students that are very prepared from other countries, by the way. And so I think the whole, and believe me, it's not the university level. We're talking about the elementary level, junior high level, high school, where I think it's been broken. We forgot and got away from teaching and learning to, standardized tests, to woke agendas. Yes, the school systems are one-sided. They're not just giving the facts to the children and let the children and their families decide what they want to believe. Wouldn't that be nice and easy? I used to have these discussions with my parents. The school would put it out and we would talk about something and controversial stuff, gun control, abortion, big issues. And we would go home and talk about it. And you it was kind of a team effort. The school was a team effort with my parents. My parents were relied on the school a lot, and they were busy working, but they were also involved in that they were kind of a backup, or the school was a backup. Either way, it felt like a team effort where they were working for one outcome, and that's to educate your child the best way possible to get them ready for the real world. And that doesn't exist anymore, man. I think that the ideology behind the education system has ruined what a lot of these kids. Well, and you mentioned it. Look at these protesters. If you ask some of these protesters, and one of my friends, a reporter, was out there asking them, they didn't even know what they were protesting about. They really did. They're chanting from the river to the sea. They have no idea. Right. They don't know what river. They don't know what sea. They have no idea what they're talking about. And why isn't anyone telling them that the words that are coming out of your mouth are hateful words, are anti-Semitic words, are just like they identify words that offend them and hurt them. They also need to know that the words that they say do the same to other people. But it's so one-sided that for some reason the other side doesn't exist. I was in Israel last year, and a couple of months before the war broke out. And I learned a lot, man. I learned a lot about we were right there at the Gaza Strip, at the Egyptian border, the West Bank, all the way. We went through the tunnels that Hezbollah uses, and up in Lebanon. It was an incredible trip, and I learned a lot. But I learned a lot because I wanted to be educated. I wanted to understand the struggle inside the Gaza Strip, Hamas, the terrorist group, and all the issues surrounding all that. And well, you know what? Because you could open up a book and read a little bit about it, but the left, and unfortunately it's the left, the right and the Republicans, they also have issues, and I think not communicating and doing the right things to clear things up, if you will. But we find ourselves in very, very difficult situations because now you see the rioting. What else is going to happen this summer? What else? Because now it becomes all of a sudden everything's political. Everything. When I go and do these speeches, Kevin, sometimes the people ask me that of the event, is it going to become political? And I said, it's not political, but I can't separate it. There will be some politics discussed in my speech, because the truth is you cannot separate it. The reason why we're in the problem with the border, it's 100% political. The reason why we have a problem with illegal immigration, it's political. The reason why we have inflation, it's political. The reason why the gas is expensive, it's political. People that tell me, oh, I'm not a political person. I'm not involved in politics. I said, listen, if you walk out your house into the street, that's political. The potholes in your street are political. Right. The light post that doesn't work in your street is political. The taxes you pay, the groceries, and we could go on and on and on. Heck yeah, it's political. And so I started saying, well, instead of ignoring it, I'm gonna embrace it, and I'm gonna try to learn from it and really try to change it to better everyone, not just one side.
And so you're doing your speeches and you're talking and you're educating people at the same time. When you're coming across people that maybe across the country and they get to meet you, what are some of the things that they say to you right now? What are you hearing from people across the country about these hot topics, and you're delivering those speeches? I'm curious how people are taking it from you.
A couple of things. One, when I share my story about the shooting and all that, and then after that, I move into what I call the aftermath of the shooting. I could tell you 99.9% of the time, the questions and feedback that I get is about the aftermath. And this is sometimes these are rooms full of cops and detectives and undercover agents, undercover police officers, and all that, and hardcore, hardworking Americans trying to keep their community safe, but they care about what happened to my family and I afterwards. Because you know why? Because they have families. Because they're human beings too. And sometimes we tend to forget that police officers are just like us. They have financial problems. They have marital problems. They have to pay the mortgage. They're just like us, except they happen to have a very unique job that brings an enormous amount of stress to not only their career, but their personal life as well. And they have to manage that on top of it. And so that's why I love to talk to them. But they pour their hearts out to me afterwards and say, thank you for talking about the family. Thank you for talking about the impact that had on your family, what your employer did and did not do. We want to hear these stories because it's real. And so that's one of the things. But on the other side, one thing that they always share is they share what is going on locally in their towns. And the number one problem right now is drugs. And you would think fentanyl pops up, yes, but it's methamphetamine. The meth problem that we have in this country, cocaine making a big comeback, and the impact that they see on a daily basis in their county, in their city, is through the roof right now, through the roof. The lack of prosecutions, the lack of accountability, they'll arrest somebody, they let them go. All those issues really, really affect them. And they really want someone, they're craving for leadership. They want someone to come in because all of a sudden the mayor is dictating to the chief of police what the police can and cannot do. And when did that happen? Well, it did happen. And it happened maybe a couple, 2-3 years ago, where we saw the shift in Kenosha, Wisconsin, in Portland. Remember all of a sudden the mayor, when did the mayor go to the academy? When the mayor, what kind of experience does the mayor have other than being an elected official about police work? But they're putting the pressure on the sheriffs, on the counties, the county judges about, no, you can't go and arrest these rioters, or no, you can't, jail them for this and for that. And we have a problem. And look at where we're at right now. And so these police officers are the ones actually doing the work, and they feel very frustrated, to say the least. That's what they share with me.
And we've seen police officers even recently. We're losing police officers again in this country and on the streets. This is kind of the scary thing. I want to ask you an opinion too. And Victor, this is kind of, me. I get off on an ADD topic here every now and then. Every now and then, I just can't control it. But I find that this country, because doing the travel and I've done over the last couple of years, like yourself, of course, not doing as much speaking, but being around those speaking events, talking to people. I find, like you talked about, frustration. It's brewing on both sides. Is there anybody, in your opinion, is there something out there? Is there a system that can get this country back together and united and, like, let's argue over the Red Sox and Yankees again? Is there something we could, really, I want to ask you, what could we do to get there, in your opinion?
Fundamentals. And as soon as you said that, it reminded me, I graduated from the University of Texas, El Paso. I graduated from UTEP. UTEP won the 1966 basketball championship in 1966 with Don Haskins, the Bear. And the way he was known for, he was the first one to start 5 black basketball players on the court. But what he was about was fundamental basketball. He didn't want any showboating. He didn't want any of this a pass behind the back or do that. He didn't want any of that crap. He wanted you to do fundamental dribbling, fundamental shooting, fundamental passing. And that's what I think about what our country needs. I think we have this incredible document called the U.S. Constitution that we have the guide. We're not having to reinvent anything here. It exists for us. We have the Bill of Rights, we have the Constitution, and we have to fundamentally go back and follow it. Simple as that. We've gotten away from it. We've strained so far from it that we find ourselves with these huge problems. But if you go back and start applying fundamentals, just like in construction, my dad was in construction all his life, you have to have that strong foundation, right, in order for the building to stay up. Well, the foundations that are being built now and have been in the last several years are so weak. They're so collapsible. they're collapsible with one word. And that's not the way this country was built on. We're a strong country. We have our flaws. And people sometimes they want to deny. It's not about denying who we are and where we came from and what we went through in this young country that we are. I mean, go visit Europe, for crying out loud. Go visit. I mean, I've lived in other countries. I've traveled around the world. And I like that, because when you walk into a building that's 700 BC old and you think, what in the 700 BC? What? It kind of takes you aback. Mm-hmm. And so it also kind of gives me a reminder how young our country is. And because of that, because of the youth of this country, we definitely have the ability to shape it and keep it how we want it to be. And that's opportunity for everyone, the legal way.
Legal way. And, you know, the Be Better podcast, you know, I took a real hard look at where we were doing the kind of content we created. And one of the biggest things I wanted to do is, you talked about the books, and, you know, the Bible to me is one of the books that we, you know, definitely need more of. And I don't mean this in a way, you know, I love people to read the Quran. I don't care who you are, as long as you have a spiritual, you know, correctness to you. I can walk with you and talk with you and work with you. We seem divided, though, even in the spiritual side. And I want to ask you about, you know, your opinion of America. Do you think, I mean, we're hearing Joe Rogan and Kid Rock and Tucker Carlson and even, you know, Charlemagne, and you hear all these people that are, you know, both on the left and the right side of the, you know, the sort of media, and everyone is talking about God, but it seems like the real media still is pushing back against that being said. What's your feelings about God in America?
I think there is no God in America. I think they've lost. I think that we need God in America. I think we need God in our lives. I'm a man of faith. I am here by His grace, and I am not ashamed to say it. I think we need more of it. We need more God, or we need people to become more spiritual, go to church, whatever it is that'll get you to focus on what matters in our lives. Life is short. And I think when you look at the big picture, whatever religion you come from, we all want the same thing. We want to be healthy individuals. We want to be able to provide to our children. We want our children to be better than us financially, health-wise, spiritually. We want them to be better people than we were, and then pass that on generation after generation. I think we all share that. But unfortunately, and this is where my experience comes in, there's a lot of hate in this world, Helen. And you have to be able to acknowledge that. You have to be able to know that exists. And sometimes I think that even the people that are Christians, whatever, the God, whatever it is, the religion, they're so captured by that, they kind of forget about reality. I go to church all the time. I pray all the time. I do well, that's all good and dandy, but you have to wake up a little bit, kind of stop and look around and understand that there's a lot of evil in this world, and there are people purposely wanting to hurt us and kill us just because of who we are, just because of where we live, just because of the color of our skin, just because of our last name, just because, and you have to know that. Now, I'm not a fear monger by any means. I just want people to be aware. So every time I talk, people ask me, what do I do, Victor? I said, just pay attention a little bit. Just start there. You start paying a little bit of attention, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how you would start thinking and preparing yourself, because I've seen it. I've seen it in my own eyes, the evil that happens, not only with our shooting, but with the human trafficking cases that I worked, and the atrocities that one human being does to another, especially a child. It's unimaginable, and some things I'll never say, and I will never be able to. Those words will never come out of my mouth, because that's how horrible it is. But I want people to understand. That's why I put one of those in my book. I put an example of it in my book, because I would hear a lot. Victor, you're a conspiracy theorist. Child trafficking doesn't really exist, and I'm like over here saying, what? I wish it wasn't, man. Are you kidding me? I'm telling you firsthand what I did and what I saw, and it's not good. It's not good. And guess what? It didn't happen in Timbuktu either. It happened right there in the neighborhood in Houston, in Chicago, in New York, in Miami, in Atlanta. It was in a regular neighborhood. It wasn't this extraordinary location that people think that it's off the grid. No, it was right there where you live. And so that's one of my goals is, if you kind of pause and pay a little bit of attention. And what does that mean? Well, pay attention to maybe your local government and go to a meeting, maybe watch different venues of news outlets, maybe get well informed. And I say this to the left and the right. Let's start talking to each other, man. You'd be surprised, I think, how much we have in common. We have more in common than we don't. But politics has become so polarizing, so divisive, that we're on the ends of the spectrum, and the middle is getting kind of forgotten.
I agree, and it's a sad place because what I remember, at my age of 54 years old, and what I remember is a place where the coffee shop was where you could have a discussion and not agree with each other, and we've lost that flavor in this country for some purposes. I think for control. You talked a little bit about your experience, and you've talked, in the past. I wanted to share with the viewers here that you were involved in that child trafficking. You were enforcing the law. And when you saw The Sound of Freedom, what did you take away from that movie? Because you lived in that world, and I never really had a chance to talk to you about this. It's a conversation I really want to. What was your feelings about Sound of Freedom?
Love the movie. Love the movie. I was very fortunate to be screened the movie a few years before it came out. And I'll share something. Well, first of all, I'll tell you, one time, the very first time I saw it, I got called to go meet. They said, Victor, can you come to Houston? I was in Dallas area, and be here in 4 hours. And that's about a 4-hour drive. So I drive there. It was in a private theater. They were screening the movie. They were looking for investors in the movie. And before you know it, I'm right there next to Jim Caviezel talking about human trafficking and the producers. And we went to go have dinner. And I'm like, what in the world? I mean, it was pretty neat, right? And so I got to see the movie. I loved the movie. But then there was another event where my wife got to go with me, and they screened the movie. My wife walked out at a certain point of the movie. And if you've seen the movie, they don't really show anything. They don't have to show anything. I mean, just the content alone is enough to mess with your mind. But because our mind is enough for us to think about what's happening. But my wife walked away, and she told me that she really didn't realize what I did for a living. Well, first of all, I didn't come home and share those stories, obviously, because it's so tragic and so dark. But I don't think she really realized what I had seen in my life, in my career, that got to her at realize what I had been doing most of my career. But yeah, I mean, I love the movie. I love the attention that I brought to it because, yeah, I've been working that for years. This is something that continues to happen.
She was shocked. She was shocked.
She was shocked. She was shocked. Like, she couldn't believe that. That's what I said. Yeah, that's what I did. That's what I mean, that was the latter part of my career is mostly all human trafficking investigations. And I think now she kind of looked back and said, well, I kind of realized maybe why the levels of stress were there and the way you were. And let me tell you, I was very good at separating work from my personal life. I was good at it. I purposely did that. I remember feeling, and I think I don't know if I wrote this in the book or not. I'm trying to remember warping from that world. And during the day, I'm working this incredible, difficult case, seeing some horrible stuff. And then at 8 o'clock at night, I'm flipping burgers in my backyard, drilling. And I'm like in this surreal, like, what in the world is happening, man? But that's what I want to communicate to people, that we all live in our lives. We all have soccer practice. We all have to pay bills. We all have the car repair bill. We all have these bills. But that's happening right here, right next to you. While you're doing that, that is happening to you. I mean, it happened to me, even the ones that I was working, and I'm here, I'm doing my normal grilling, and I'm like, this is a sick world. And so I did fight that to not bring that home, because how could you? That's just horrible.
It's incredible. And, I can just see you in the backyard grilling and again, maybe even looking at your children and thinking, man, what, just dealt with a case like that. And it's pretty amazing. And, I think more people are starting to, even the people that maybe were making it politically debatable, people are realizing, and I guess I'll kind of shift the question. You have a really good understanding of this conversation, this topic of sex trafficking. What's going on with Hollywood, P. Diddy, all these things that are going on? These are indicators to me that some systems are starting to crumble. And I'd like to get your opinion, as you have some knowledge there.
Yeah, I approach this very logically. Like the P Diddy case, I'm a little surprised that he's not in custody, because that's not normally the way I would. If that was my case, and I don't know anything about the case, I'll say that I don't know anything about it. I don't know any of the evidence or any of that. All I know is what you and I know, that they went and raided his homes. But to do that, you need not only probable cause and get a warrant from a judge, but that means you have some pretty interesting information to get to that point. And usually, at least for me, when I work those cases, I had enough to at least pick up the individual, at least for questioning, and so it's very surprising to me that he's kind of been left alone. They picked up this evidence, but you didn't pick up the subject. That is kind of weird. That's a little weird to me. I don't know what the approach is there. I don't know how this investigation is being approached, because it's HSI. It's where I work. They're the ones that did it. And so I don't know if they're protecting something, or they're doing it as a bigger picture and more people are involved. But it's a little backwards for me. Sometimes we would do what they call sealed indictments, and we would get a sealed indictment. Nobody knows about it. You're out there walking around with a sealed indictment, which is a warrant for your arrest, but nobody's picking you up. And until while at that time, we're gathering all the evidence. We're doing this, we're doing that. And so here they go and hit the houses. That almost seems like the conclusion of that part of the investigation. It shouldn't be the beginning of it, unless you really had nothing. But then again, you had to have something to get that probable cause, to get the warrant. Anyway, so that's weird. All I know is that there's a lot of people that I think should be investigated. I think there's a lot of organizations. I think I would start with the NGOs that are facilitating. You and I have talked about this, these non-governmental organizations that are giving money by us, by our own money, by our taxpayer money, through FEMA, through the State Department, through the United Nations, giving them millions of dollars to literally traffic some of these kids. Health and Human Services, for example, have lost 100,000 children. Lost. They have no idea where they're at. What do you mean they lost? So they got this child, undocumented child, and then they said that Joe Blow wanted to sponsor in Chicago or North Carolina or wherever, wanted this child because they said that was their nephew, their niece, whatever. And they said, okay, here, send them. And he put them on an airplane. I've flown with them. I told you this. And they deliver that child. This is insane to me. This to me is how in the world, where's the vetting of that individual? Who is that person? And why is that person asking for this child? Because we have 100,000 of those that we don't know where the child is or what the child is being used for. Now, there are some, I imagine there's cases where the child has actually been reunited with their family, good, with their parent or next of kin. Okay, that's great. But I don't have the verification behind it. And who's doing it? Oh, it's the cartels. Oh, no. It's the government. It's Health and Human Services. It's Office of Refugee and Resettlement. It's with our help, with our money. And I never thought in my career, human trafficking is what they call a violation of law, a crime that happens in plain sight. And the way we say that is because a lot of people think human trafficking is underground, hidden, dark. No, the girls are right next door at the house or an apartment, in an apartment complex. They're being held there. Everybody thinks it has to be a brothel. No, it's a business. It could be an apartment. It could be a house. I've hit mansions, a mansion in a wealthy, affluent neighborhood. And so it happens everywhere. That's why I say it's in plain sight. And so to go from that to even under our noses, right in front of our faces, and not be able to do anything about it. Let me tell you, I've flown with these kids. several of them in airplanes. Oof, man, the feelings that I go through of anger and helplessness, knowing that the child that was sitting next to me, I have no idea what that person is and what they're going to do with that person, with that child.
Does it take a lot to control that sometimes? Do you feel like you want to just jump
Yeah,
up
it's anger, and I'm like, well, do I take it out on who do I take it out on? TSA, the airline, the NGO, the Department of Homeless. Who is it? It's a culmination of a group of all these other people. It's deliberate, and it's you use the word frustrating to say the least, for sure.
Let me. I want to ask you this in a sense, and we'll move on from this very important topic. But in the movie, we talked about that your wife walked out in the Sound of Freedom. There was a really education piece, I think, for America, that we have the highest trafficking of internet child porn in the world, and you know that. I mean, you know better than I do. Where's why aren't we cracking down on that? I'm just asking. I mean, I'm just asking because everyone should agree on this. Why are we not cracking down on it?
I'm so glad you brought that up, because all of a sudden it's kind of taboo that you don't want to talk about it. I'll tell you who does want to talk about it. I'll tell you this really quick, because it was always very interesting to me when I worked in Mexico, and I used to address the Mexican government on human trafficking and or something else, drug trafficking, whatever. And they'd always say, well, the United States is the number one consumer of the drugs. Well, shit, that's true. Well, the United States is the number one consumer of the children and prostitution. Yeah, that's true. So then you have to kind of go back, and I'm all for enforcement, but this is where the bigger picture is. This is where we start talking about God. This is where we start talking about societal impacts and society. I'm talking about morals here. I'm talking about core values that would, I think, have been lost. That's why we have a tremendous amount of citizens. Well, who do you think the traffickers? Why do they bring children and trafficking here in the United States? Well, it's us. It's a United States citizen that is buying the services and buying the children and sexually abusing the children. I mean, it sounds horrible, but I tell you the truth. It's us. Why do we have a drug epidemic? Because we keep on using drugs. We keep on buying pills. We keep on using cocaine. We keep on using marijuana. We keep on using methamphetamine and heroin. Well, that's why it keeps on coming. Now, yes, we have the old argument of supply and demand. So, okay, you asked me, a lot of people, okay, what would you do first? Well, I want to help those people. I want to help these offenders that are supplying and keeping these organizations of human trafficking and drug trafficking alive. I do want to address it, but I want to address the people doing it first, so we could at least reduce that so dramatically that we would have the opportunity to address the addiction with the people. I don't think we could address the addiction if we don't stop the flow of the humans and the drugs. That's why we've never been successful at this war, the war on drugs, because the border's never been secure. And so you could do as many programs that you want in the U.S. and DARE and this and Just Say No, and you can invent whatever you want. But as long as those drugs continue to pour through that border, you're never going to be effective in your country. So let's attack that. But I'm not talking about attacking it fiercely, firmly, and making a dramatic impact of where the flow of drugs and humans stopping to come into the country. Then we say, okay, now let's look at you crazies over here that are having sex with children. We have a problem. Yes, we do have a problem. And I think it's God. It's one these people they have absolutely no sense of morality. If you're having sex with a kid, that right there should tell you everything. So then we address it. We address it to the community. We address it through the church. We address it through other programs of maybe rehabilitation, psychological rehabilitation, just like you do drug rehabilitation. Let's do that too. I want to do that part too. I want to help solve that problem, because we also need to solve that and not want the same people continuing to ask for the demand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it is a huge problem. And I thank you for bringing that up. A lot of people don't want to talk about that, but it's a very dark and real reality that we live in the U.S., that we are the consumers of the pornography. We are the consumers of the of all these illicit activities with these children, or else the problem wouldn't exist. Now, it's not it's not just the United States. It's in Europe. It's everywhere else.
Right.
But the United States happens to be the number one customer.
Consumer. And it's crazy because I think I shared this with you, maybe I hadn't, but on this journey, I battled myself, never wanting to talk about being molested as a child. And of all people that I'm interviewing was Stormy Daniels, when I first started, and she talked about her experience and I shared mine. And it was crazy because after that moment, it opened up all these like things that I ignored. Even in working in corrections, I never really experienced any thoughts because I let go of it. But you just worry about all those children because they're the next generation. They come up and their abuse becomes, sort of their lineage. That's had. Can we crack down on the internet and maybe can I get someone to look at all the people that hack me? Because I got one guy that hacks me every day, man. Can we get him?
This thing is a double-edged sword, man. This thing, I call it La La Land.
Yeah.
And I tell my kids, get off of La La Land. Come on, come back to reality. This is not real. As good as this is for work and whatever you need it, it's also a lot of evil in it. Mm-hmm. And so I tell my kids, listen, man, the reality is you and me here talking to each other and going out in the street and breathing fresh air. It's not through the computer. Those are not real friendships. The Facebook is fake. Everything is fake. I agree that we have to limit the use of this. I like to use this for what it's meant to be used for the good things. But as you know, everything is used for evil things as well, and it's hard to say, well, I want to ban this, but not this. Well, it kind of doesn't work that way. But definitely a reduction of usage, I think, will benefit all of us, especially our youth. I think that there's a correlation. I worked a lot with a lot of transgenders when as an agent. There are a lot of them are involved in the criminal justice system, and 100% of them had been sexually abused. 100% of them, all of them that I dealt with, at least, had a horrific trauma in their life, mostly the sexual abuse, and I see the correlation between the phone, social media, the wokeness, the woke agenda, and all that, with having more people identify as transgender or identify as a different gender, or having that confusion of whether they're a boy or a girl. It's always existed. I'm telling you, I dealt with these people years ago before any. Mm-hmm. I know it always existed, but now you see it exist a lot more. Why? Well, because of this, because of the social media, because of that it has been introduced a lot easier, and I think it's the lack of supervision. I think it's the lack of the father of the home. It's the lack of a lot of things, right? Society in itself. You start putting all these factors together. The father starts missing from the home, so all the bad statistics just shoot through the roof, right? All of a sudden you have drop out of school, education, crime, poverty, and this vicious cycle that continues to happen. Now all of a sudden you have sexual deviancy or identity crisis of who you are, and it's not good. All these people need help, and we find ourselves now in a political fight of all these things because of all these things that are happening in our society that we didn't see a lot of even just a few years ago.
And of course, right now, I hope you're enjoying this interview. And by the way, guys, you're watching this, the viewers, I'm referring to, of course, my good friend Victor, is doing multiple part series. We'll talk a little bit with him, but he just filmed, and I think one was released with Dr. Phil. He's on a media tour across the country, and we get a chance to talk to him. And I just want to say that, God is great, because our relationship has grown over the last 4 years. And, Victor, I think one of those things, when you talk about this, the moral value and all these things, and for somebody like me, so you brought up marijuana. I'm a pro supporter of alternative medicines. I am all about anything that doesn't have to do with pharmaceutical. And you know what? You just struck me, because I'm going to be doing something with Monica Page of OAN down in DC soon, and we're going to get you on a panel discussion of people pro and against, and I think that's a healthy. Those are the conversations we need to have. But when you talk about drugs in itself, where is the government when it comes to really trying to stop and stifle those drugs? You talk that it's not so much fentanyl anymore. Maybe fentanyl's. I mean, I'll put it this way: what I hear is fentanyl's being used in marijuana. Fentanyl's been used in, the gummies. That industry was almost, people didn't realize the last 5 years. You're getting fentanyl. You weren't getting a CBD Delta 8, or you weren't getting a Delta 9. Is the government getting in front of that piece of it? Because the government's helping build cannabis in this country, and that's going to get saturated with dirty, powers as well.
You just heard that they want to change the scheduling of it, and I didn't mean to say that fentanyl has gone away and it's not a problem. No, believe me, it's a huge problem. Fentanyl and the deaths and the poisonings of fentanyl is a huge issue. But I want people to understand that methamphetamine is also huge, and methamphetamine users and addicts continue to use methamphetamine. They usually will not die, meaning that they continue to use and need more. And so they'll commit many, many crimes, of property crimes or whatever, to get their money on the next fix. Same thing with heroin and cocaine. Has the government done much? No. I mean, I would love to see. I started seeing here and there, like the DEA has a really good program, One Pill Kills. I started seeing a billboard here and there, an announcement. But what I want to see is a saturation of the old PSAs. Remember the public service announcements? And I want to see it saturated on not on the TV, on this thing, what we're talking about, right? Where our kids were going to be the pop-up to come up when they're on Instagram and Snapchat that says, "Do not take the pill. It's going to kill you." And put it everywhere. I want to see it on billboards. I want to see it on TV. I want to see it on streaming. I want to see it on social media. I want to see it on all these apps. And I want the government to pay for it. And I do want my taxpayer money to be used for that, because that would save lives. If some kid would see that and say, "Oh man, this is I'm not going to take a pill because of that announcement that I saw," boom, that's good for me. Saving one life is worth it. I don't see that, Alan. I don't see that.
Do you think alcohol is in that same play in some way with lack of education towards alcohol? Because it seems like almost like alcohol doesn't even matter anymore. It's almost like everyone you see has a drink. And listen, I'm not sensitive. I go into bars and restaurants. It's my addiction wasn't your addiction, so I don't play that. But I think we allow our children, to maybe just think it's. And I did it. I regret, asking for a regret, having a beer can in my hand around the fire all the time with my, my children around me. That's one of my biggest regrets.
Yeah, and it's there's a lot of, one of the things I'll say, like the comparison between alcohol and marijuana. And I want to have this discussion. I would love to be part of this panel. And I could just tell you, based on my experience and even my own personal experience, I don't think it's the same thing. I don't qualify it or even put it in the same category. I think there is a difference between the use of marijuana and alcohol. Not necessarily, right? It's not necessarily one better than the other, but it's necessarily, I think we talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's have this discussion about alcohol. And alcohol is a big problem amongst our youth. And, I have a 19-year-old in college, and I told him, Victor, his name's Victor. I said, "Don't you dare take a pill, man. Victor, you know what I do for a living?" He says, "Dad, the pills are flowing on campus. They're all types of Xanax, Adderall, Oxycontin, Percocet, and you don't know what the heck you're getting."
And these are pharmaceutical looking grade medicines.
Exactly the same.
Right. And so they're
counterfeit.
Yeah,
they're counterfeit.
Right.
They're 100% counterfeit. They look exactly like the real one, but they're buying them off of Snapchat. They're buying them off the internet. They're buying them off their friend, wherever, and it's laced with fentanyl. Now, they don't have the same amount of fentanyl in it, or xylazine. Now they're putting xylazine in it. And you and I we're partying, you and I take a pill. I die, you don't, because mine happen to have a little bit more fentanyl than yours. And so, but the one that did take the fentanyl is a very addictive substance. So you take fentanyl, and if you don't die, now you're going to want more fentanyl. Right. And we have a problem now that people are addicts are asking for fentanyl. They want to take fentanyl. This is a serious problem. Like in Philadelphia, we have a lot of issues with that. Virginia, I get people telling me that there's people wanting fentanyl and they're asking for fentanyl. And you mentioned the lacing of other drugs. Absolutely. They're lacing cocaine, they're lacing heroin, they're lacing marijuana. And so the days of, I'm going to smoke a joint and relax, and it's not, you don't know what it is. You really don't know. And now you're putting yourself in a situation where you're playing Russian roulette with either an addiction problem or maybe the possibility of ending your life altogether.
We are going to put together a panel for that healthy discussion. And, I can tell you that I think that's a conversation that we could probably bring a lot more people to the table about. It sort of takes a little bit of the debate of the political position. However, we always do know that flows in there. Victor, your biggest regret, maybe while you were serving as an ICE agent, if you look back on your career, do you have anything that you say, man, I would have done something different with this or that?
Well, the obvious answer is the obvious regret, and I guess I don't see it so much as a regret, other than I wish we never would have gone on that assignment. That would have changed a lot of things. But as far as my career, I liked the way that it was going. I liked the direction that it was going. I was about to be the head of the office that we were going to open in Merida, Mexico. So we were excited about that. Then we would probably end up in DC. And so I had that vision of continuing to serve in different capacities and especially in upper management, especially coming from a line agent. A lot of times in these law enforcement agencies, you have the line agent never gets promoted to be the head of the agency. And there's a lot of stigma and a lot of sometimes resentment from the line agents, because all of a sudden they'll bring some attorney or some political appointee that has never actually done the job, and all of a sudden he's your boss trying to tell you what to do and how to do it. And so I wanted to be possibly one of those first ones to be in a high level management position that said, well, this guy actually knows what he's talking about. Why? Well, he worked the cases. He came from down there. He came from the border. He came from Mexico. He served in these places. He actually arrested somebody. He actually did a case. He actually investigated something. And I wanted to bring that. Regrets, maybe educational wise. Maybe I think I should have studied some more and maybe gotten a higher degree. I have a bachelor's of science in criminal justice. I didn't want to be an attorney. But I wasn't a big school is not one of those things that I love school to attend. But I think maybe it would have been better for me to stay in school to get a master's or something. I'm not that school material, believe me. I'm more of a streetwise kind of guy. But maybe that's probably the biggest regret, other than the tragedy that I went through. Obviously, nobody wanted to go through that, and it would have really have changed the course of my career. As a matter of fact, I probably would have still been working there.
No doubt. And so, you know what, I'm going to tell you this, if the next president of the United States, and I don't care if it's a Democrat or Republican, I do, but you know what I mean? I'm being very bipartisan here. If you're looking for the next director, I'm pretty sure you take over ICE and any other agency. And what better person to put into that could actually customize some creativity when it comes to the southern border? Obviously, it would be my friend Victor. Victor, you're a great dude, man. And I just want to say thank you for sharing your story and your journey and coming on here and helping us out. And, I saw that big post, man. I'm like, look at this guy. He's just blowing up. And I'm like, so proud of you. It's crazy. And I know you know Alex Stein, right?
Yeah.
Alex comes on my show the next day. He's over on this thing. You not that I didn't help you because you're doing your hit pieces before. I'm like, is anyone going to give Kevin a call one day? So you know what? It's okay. I get it. But I love you, brother. I appreciate you, man. And anything we can do to share your story and journey. So if you want to tell folks where they can find your information right now, I'm going to put this up with the Dr. Phil, and we'll come up and close this up. But let everyone know where they can find you.
You can find me on social media, Instagram at Victor Avila Jr., Facebook at Victor Avila X, at Victor Avila TX. Check out my website, VictorAvilaSpeaks.com. That's where you could, reach out to me if you want somebody to come and speak at your group. I've been doing a lot of that and love to come out and speak to one of your groups, whether it's a corporate leadership type style. I adjust my speeches according to the audiences, and Obviously, agentunderfirebook.com is if you could get a copy of the book. And then I'm gonna leave you with something that I told you that I was gonna tell you and share with you that I haven't really shared publicly, but I'm gonna start sharing it. And that's I'm in the process of looking and we're getting very close here to make a motion picture out of my book. And so that's going to be a very exciting project that I had a very good meeting yesterday. And that's basically all I can say right now. But I just want to let you know, Kevin, that you and your first is the first one I shared it with, that I would love for it to come to fruition, that Agent Under Fire would become a motion picture. And so that's very exciting.
That is exciting. And the tragedy to that story also is the opportunity for you to spread the word and in the memory of your partner, of
Correct.
course. And please mention his name again so the people know his name.
Agent Jaime Zapata lost his life in line of duty February 15, 2011. And absolutely that's what exactly this will solidify the memory of Agent Zapata, the memory, I told the meeting that I had yesterday, I told him, well, I don't know where you're going to put it, either in the front of the movie or the end of the movie or whatever, but you're going to put a tribute to Agent Zapata because every time I speak, I have to say his story. I tell them that the only condition that I have in speaking is to be able to share his story and letting people know who he was and the sacrifice that he gave for our country. And so I think the movie will do that for sure.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. I'm going to put you in the back room. Don't go anywhere. You give me 2 minutes. I'll be right with you. I'm going to close this out right here. And there's our guy. Go and check out my friend Victor. We will drop all the links that he mentioned right here for you. Mark, the producer, will take care of that. This is a live show. We haven't done many live shows lately. We're getting back in the groove because I'm back, baby. And you know what happens now when you get this energy and you start to talk to people, and Victor just energized me because, he doesn't know yet. I'm going to see him in the back room in a minute. I'm on IMBD now. You can look up Kevin Allen. That's right, because, well, some things are changing in my life too. I hope you enjoyed this interview with my good friend from Texas. Go and check out all of Victor's stuff. And, guys, just please do me a favor. Stay prayed up out there, and make sure you're watching the Prayed Up Network, the Be Better podcast with me. We're going to be hitting the road. Going to be down in D.C. We talked about it before. Monica Page, that's right, from OAN, the White House correspondent, and I are going to be doing a podcast down there in Washington, D.C., starting, I think tomorrow's our first one. And then we'll start filming. I won't be in D.C. We'll be remote, but eventually in June forward, we'll be down in D.C. So if my friends are down in D.C. and some of them that watch this show, reach out to us. Make sure you hook up. And I hope everyone just has